freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your round two recap for this week's RBC Canadian Open. Joining me to break it all down, he's north of the border. It's Mark Immelman. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Rick. How are you? Yeah, it's nice up here. I got to tell you, this golf course is pretty sweet. There's a lot of movement on it. It is firming up before our eyes, but the weather is idyllic. I mean, I was out in a sweater most of the day. It's cool in the shade, warm in the sunshine. It's perfect.
Yeah, the green complexes are looking a little spicy. They're getting me very, very excited, and the Canadian fans are excited, and they're super excited about the man who made the biggest move of the morning wave, and that was Mackenzie Hughes. Mark, as of this moment, we've still got a couple guys out of the golf course. Mackenzie Hughes has the round of the day. It was a 6 under 64 that vaulted him up 28 spots on the leaderboard. It featured not one, but two different eagles, and all of this by coming home and playing his last three holes at 2 over. So imagine how deep he really was. Mackenzie Hughes was the Canadian bright star of Friday.
Yeah, he certainly was. With that finish, it's not what you're looking for, but I will say this. The bit of the round I saw in the morning, I don't want to say it was smoke and mirrors because he wasn't driving the ball at all well. He was sort of battling a bit of a bulky driver. And my early assessment of the course was with the undulations on the golf course, and certainly with the green complexes and some of the hole locations today, which were set up by the rules officials to defend the golf course a bit, because it's just about 7,000 yards. You had to sort of be playing from the fairway a little bit, which he wasn't. But all that being said, look, he grew up just down the way in Dundas, which is just a few miles away. He's obviously very comfortable in this environment, understands the golf courses, understands the terrain. And, once one of the Canadians gets going around you, the fans get behind them. And we saw that in the morning. The fans got more rowdy in the afternoon, that is for certain. But this morning, there was a pretty strong contingent out there. And when one of their own starts getting going, people get behind him. And look, he's the kind of guy you would expect to play well. He's a good ball striker. He's a tremendous putter. And to me, the ability to see wide lines, to putt these greens a little bit, which seem to speed up during the day, that is going to be key to success. And he's pretty handy on the greens.
Yeah, he certainly is. And there were actually a couple of Canadians going very low this morning. Hat tip to Corey Connors, who also got to 5 under par at one point in his round. He gave 2 back late as well on that stretch of 7, 8, and 9. He ended up at 4 under par. So he's inside the top 15. But Mark, I want to talk about the guy who is currently at the top of the leaderboard. And over the course of the next hour or so, maybe he's not alone or maybe he's not at the top at all. But that's Robert McIntyre, who followed up his Thursday 64 with a Friday 66. Birdies on 1, 4, 12, and 15. He is the only man in the field who is bogey-free through 36 holes.
He is. I arrived last night in Canada and made arrangements to walk around the golf course with a young lady, Australian former LPGA player who now lives here and teaches golf. And she worked at Hamilton for a while, and so she reached out, and I'm like, please walk around the course with me, kind of show me the ropes a little bit. So we did, and we got to the par 3/8 hole, and he was on the green there, and he was over the green in a valley, chipping uphill to a green on a flag cuddled on a little perch there, and it wasn't that easy. The ball was slightly downsloping, certainly tight lie. All the surrounds around these greens are mown and shaved, and I said to her, I'm like, watch this guy, can really chip. And he pulls out lob wedge there and clips it away on the green, 1 bounce, 2 bounce, check, climbs the hill to about 4 feet. And she laughed at me. She goes, you've done this before. And I'm sort of go, well, I've just watched him chip. This is a guy who's got a phenomenal short game. He's a wonderful putter. He's playing well. They had a top 10 at the PGA Championship just a few weeks ago. But the thing about it is he seems to me like his mind is just in the right place right now. He's got his dad on the bag. He spoke about that afterwards and said, look, with the news of Grayson Murray last week, let's put golf into some perspective for me. And he said, I've hit some horrid shots, but I'm just like, okay, it's just golf, you know, and I'm out with my dad, and who knows how much more we're going to get to do this together. So he's just embracing the opportunity, playing with some confidence, making some saves, keeping golf in perspective. I feel like it's kind of his ace in the hole, where he's like, oh, you know, I'm just kind of playing. Now, over the weekend, when we get closer to the finish line and a potential maiden trophy on the PGA Tour, things may change. But right now, he's a guy who's really scrambling well. He's putting beautifully, and his mind is in the right place.
Yeah, so 10 under par is where Robert McIntyre is. That is the pace setter. And Mark, I want to, because you've been out at the golf course, I want to get your thoughts. I mean, round one and round two scoring averages are almost identical, about 3/4 of a stroke over par. We're kind of seeing some of the defenses around Hamilton Golf and Country Club, and you were describing them just a little bit there. I think the undulations on the greens are fascinating. What else do you see out there that we should keep an eye on over the course of the next 2 days?
The main thing to me, Rick, is the firming up of the golf course, which it was doing today, and it's certainly going to do a little bit more. When our crew arrived here earlier this week from Fort Worth, they were talking to me about the rains that fell, and we took this path to go down to the 18th hole, and the guy who was driving me in my car said we couldn't go along this path because it was like a mud bog and we were sliding all over the show. Well, today that thing was compacted, and it was mud, and it was firm. And the golf course is doing the same thing. So with that, the firmness will accentuate all of these slopes on this place. I mean, it's as hilly a golf course as what I've seen. The only level lies on the teeing grounds, because once you're in the fairway, you've got an uneven lie. On the greens, it almost magnifies itself. Some of them in the redesign or the renovation of these hairy cult greens were actually softened a little bit because of the surfaces now are obviously faster than they used to be back in the day. So watch for undulation, watch for the firming, and then watch for these fairway bunkers, because the way they sit into the fairway, and as you look down the fairway, they're kind of staggered, almost like looking at Royal Lytham. And if you hit the ball into one of those fairway bunkers, to me, it's almost like a half a stroke penalty, because the lips are so high, and then they've got this native fescue grass growing off them that are called eyelashes. So with the eyelashes, the depth of the bunkers, and their layout, if you're in those fairway bunkers, you're in trouble. So the big one for me is kind of finding the fairway, and from there controlling distance to these sloping greens.
Yeah, I like that call. I watch guys struggle basically all day long outside of those, inside those fairway bunkers. So that'll be a fun little nugget to follow over the weekend. We are going to turn our attention to some of the bigger names, and then the top of the board again as we are finishing up this second round here in Ontario. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
The UEFA Champions League final. This is as big as it gets. This is the final round. The kings of the Champions League. They are Real Madrid. This is the battleground. Dortmund are into the Champions League final. I can't believe it. We can't believe it. Ain't gonna stop me now. This is the final round. All his dreams coming true.
Dortmund versus Real Madrid in the UEFA Champions League final. Streaming live on Paramount+.
And we're back. Now, Mark, as we were turning our attention to the afternoon wave, I want to point out a couple of notables, and these guys struggled just a bit. Sam Burns was 7 under through round number one. That was a 63, and he did not make his first par on this golf course until his 7th hole. He did settle down after that, and he played his final 12 with 10 pars, and he played it at even par. But when you add it all up, it was a 1 over round of 71 that he started off with a double. He struggled out of the fairway bunker, quite frankly, on number one. I believe he left his first shot in there, and then he couldn't reach the green. So we saw that kind of rear its ugly head immediately here. Sam Burns has all the firepower in the world, but he's trying to rein in those big numbers at the moment.
That is going to be key. And as you watch the weekend transpire, you're going to see more of that. I almost feel like as fast as the golf course will play, there's someone like Burns is very much like a Rory McIlroy, who uses the driver to be an aggressor, as an offensive weapon. So you drive the ball as far as you can, and then you just find it and you play from there. Where I feel like that strategy may trip one up a little bit as the rough continues to grow. It kind of got drier, the rough, so that didn't make it as punitive as in the mornings. but the rough is going to grow. The bunkering we've talked about. So for someone like a Burns, it's almost like you have to rein things in a little bit and play with a bit more discipline. Hit some fairway finders with these bent grass fairways. They almost roll out like greens. If you're finding fairways, the ball will run out there. And the golf course is not very long. And so you're going to have short clubs in. And it is paramount, Rick. And it's becoming more and more so because the greens, when I first arrived this morning, they were leaving pitch marks and the ball was sort of spinning back or stopping where it landed. In the afternoon, those were beginning to go away. And we don't have any rain forecast for tomorrow, some for Sunday. So I feel like it's more and more important to play out the fairways. So for a Burns, it's time to play a little more managerial than maybe getting so aggressive off the tees.
Speaking of playing out of the fairways, that's not something that Rory McIlroy, our pre-tournament favorite, has done often. Round 1, he hit 6 out of 14 fairways. Round 2, he hit again 6 out of 14 fairways. So that's 12 out of 28, 134th in driving accuracy. And Mark, you can get away with that if you start pounding greens and do some good stuff. Mm-hmm. Not so much on Friday for Rory McIlroy. Lost 3 strokes on approach, only hit 10 greens, struggled with his scrambling, was never under par. He shot a 2 over 72, and he is currently in a tie for 28th.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things that are at play there. First off, it looked to me like Rory was really battling with his golf swing today. Early in the round, there were a number of sort of underneath wide right blocked misses. And then the reaction, the professional reaction to that is to swing inside out and then shut the face down. Then you start to hit 1 or 2 balls that turn to the left. And we saw both the two-sided miss going on throughout the day. So there was that. But then we talked about the condition of the golf course. Now it's firming. In round 1, it was softer. So you're playing from the rough. You're going to get a bit of a flyer, but some of the holes are kind of like punch bowls, and the ball will stop and you can hold greens, put a putter in your hand. This afternoon, he was playing late. If you're coming from the rough, the ball's going to probably release off these greens, and there are lots of fall-offs, lots of putting, chipping areas around the greens. And we saw one situation where on the 10th, he stung a wedge in there with a bit too much backspin. The ball spun a little bit, and as the greens were firming and getting faster, the ball released off the front of the green and some 30, 40 yards down the fairway. So again, it's the golf swing he was struggling with, but it's just the nature of the golf course. Undulations defend a course. And if you want to hit the ball on the green, you have to hit it the right distance. And that is a function of good contact and controlling spin. And from the rough, you're always guessing a little bit.
Yeah, that approach on 10 landed 8 feet short of the pin, and he ended up having a 49-yard shot back in. Just never stopped rolling.
And it's not the only green that's like that. I saw a number of holes where you have these false edges, and normally a false front will run down to a catchment sort of area. Not these things. There's a number of holes. I didn't count them all, but I just seem to think, man, we're going uphill on every hole over here. And so if you get this thing on the wrong side of the hole, you are in trouble if you're not controlling distance, because they might come back at you, or if not, takes a firm bounce. Now you're putting down that slope. So look, it's going to be some fun watching over the weekend. That's for certain.
Yeah, 100% agreed, and love that it seems like it's firming out. Let's get back to the positives here. And they're on Thursday, David Skins made a late charge. We had a couple of guys in at 7 under par all day long. David Skins played the late spoiler and stole the first round lead. Ryan Fox is trying to put on an encore performance here and steal this second round lead late in the day. He actually touched it, Mark, when he birdied number 5 after starting on the back 9. He tied the lead with Robert McIntyre. Now, he did give one back on number 6, the par 3. He has 2 holes remaining. He is 1 shot off the pace. But if you like guys with a weapon, like a big hitter, Ryan Fox is that guy, and plenty of skill in other areas.
Yeah, I would say for the Antipodean, the New Zealander, the climate sort of feels like what they're used to. Sunshiny, cool. So maybe that fits the eye. The grasses as well, with the bent grass and stuff. But as it pertains to him finishing, he just got through 7, where the hole was cut in the back corner of the green, about 3 paces off the edge. with a chipping area to the left if you missed. So everyone, even with wedges and 9-irons, were playing like 25 feet to the right and safely. 8 to par 3, it's this huge green with a big swale, almost like a beer Ritz kind of a green, and the flag's cut in the back, top, left-hand edge, and over the back it drops 15 feet off the green. No chance from down there. I would be surprised if he makes 2. It would be accidental if he did. And then the 9th hole, it's the same sort of thing. It's a tough hole location. So I feel like if he gets in with 3 pars, he's in good shape. The reality of it is, though, is this is a guy who's wildly talented, but sort of doesn't really have much form going on. So I really am wondering, I can't speak with any real authority because I haven't asked or I don't know, but I don't know what the key is. So I have to guess maybe it's some comfort in the conditions, or maybe it's just like one of these PGA Tour things where they find one swing thought or one feel or one something, and all of a sudden they're off to the races. Because he is the kind of guy, when he gets going, he is not afraid of just going head to head, getting mixed up with the leaders, and then coming out on top.
Yeah, always one something away are these guys indeed. Robert McIntyre currently at the top of the board, 10 under par. As mentioned, Ryan Fox, 9 under, Joel Damon in at 8 under, and then a trio at 7 under. That's Andrew Novak, Mackenzie Hughes, and David Skins. Josh, do we have the odds currently, and these will be changing obviously over the next 45 minutes or so as this round completes, but for the most part, Robert McIntyre remains your favorite, 3-1 to win the RBC Canadian Open. Ryan Fox is at 5-1. Mackenzie Hughes is 7.5-1, and everybody else is double digits or longer. That includes Sam Burns at 10, Joel Damon at 14, Andrew Novak at 16. Rory McIlroy drops from, he was about 2.5-1, 3-1 midday on Friday, now down to 18-1, and then David Skins is 25-1. So Mark, the main thing that jumps out to me is the struggles by Rory McIlroy have opened up this odds board in a way that now kind of allows for some of these other, like when Rory is really in the mix and at the top of the board, he just sucks up all of Vegas's attention. They can't necessarily do that at the moment.
Well, it was the same thing last week with Scheffler at Fort Worth and Colonial. Davis Love had the lead by 4, and Scotty was even money, I think, going into the final round. Now, we're in at the halfway mark, and like I said, stick with Davis last week, and he pulled it off. Davis Riley, that is. And I have an inkling to want to stay with McIntyre as well. There's a lot of golf left, but look, I will say this. This place asks you to hit the golf ball well, but with these greens, you could hit a golf ball that gets on the wrong side of a slope, like Augusta National, and you're going to have to recover. And he is the ultimate recovery guy right now. And like I said, again, it seems like mentally he's playing with such acuity, and the mind is just so clear, and he's got this sort of air of things in perspective. And there's a real freedom to that. And when you're playing under pressure, the thing that goes is freedom, because everything tightens up because of tension. So if he can stay in that mindset, look, he's playing well. I wouldn't be surprised if the Scotsman does the trick. It's not the best bet in the world, but right now I have my eye on him.
Yeah, I liked him a lot before the tournament started, but never in the sense of thinking he could actually win this golf tournament. So now I'm a little bit worried because he's doing so well. And then I look at Sam Burns, who's got, so much firepower. We talked about him, but man, I worry about how quickly things could go sideways here. But with McIlroy falling off, it does give Sam Burns a little bit more appeal. So I don't know, Mark. This is an interesting board. I think there's clearly a lot of golf still to be played, and you're gonna have to go out and earn this thing.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I'm with you on Burns, but I wouldn't say I'm out on Sam Burns right now, because when I watch him play, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's good, and he does putt really well. But I was on hand in Scotland last year, and I was calling Bob McIntyre there in the Scottish Open, where Rory pipped him with an unreal birdie on the last. This Bob McIntyre is not afraid. He isn't. He had some shots coming down the stretch that were a mix of squirrely and incredible. I mean, it's almost like I couldn't predict him, but that was the beauty of watching him play. And he had some funky shots, but stayed in it. Then all of a sudden he makes a putt. Then he makes a nice birdie on 16, I recall. And then on 18, it's that fairway medal, which was one of my shots of the year to about 5 feet. and birdied what was an impossible par 4 in that 18th hole. And I was like, golly, you don't do that. That doesn't happen by accident. That is showing some mettle and some contentment with a big stage. And then he showed it again in the Ryder Cup alongside Justin Rose. So I feel like it's kind of his time. You know, I think he's paid his dues. He's won in Europe, and I think maybe his chance to kind of get a signature win, if you will.
Okay, yeah, could see that happening. And there's a lot of golf to be played. 36 and change holes remaining coming from the Canadian Open. We'll be back after each and every round along the way to get you all the updates and recaps that you need. Producer Josh doing all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there, it's Mark Immelman, who you can find at Mark_Immelman, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.